I've got kids, and it's important for us to understand that you can't tell your children to be good people. You have to show them.
That's true. Your demonstration, yeah. What do they say? Your words, your actions are louder than words.
Much louder than words.
Oh, most definitely. So once again, if you're just tuning in, I'm in the studio with Vonda, Kline, and our special guest, Miss Stephanie Sawyer. The name of the program is Mind to Mind here on WPEB 88.1 FM. Once again, I know you're extremely busy, and I want to thank you for making the time to come out and speak to our audience here. If you do have any questions, give us a call here at 215-472-0882. Now, I'm looking at your flyer. Yes. And it says push button. What button are you supposed to be pushing?
You're supposed to push 126. They saved the best for last. I'm actually last on the ballot, and I think it's important for people to understand, you know, Court of Common Pleas judges, you know, they carry a whole lot of power with them. People don't seem to, you know, everybody runs out for the presidential election, and I'm awfully glad that we got our president in there. I mean, I'm very happy about that. But presidents, mayors, senators, state representatives, in 2 years, or 4 years, or 6 years, if you get it wrong, you can vote them out. Right. Court of Common Pleas judges, their terms are 10 years.
Wow.
And, yeah. But it gets deeper than that. After the 10 years, they don't have a regular election. They have what's known as a retention election.
Now, what does that mean?
A retention election is different from a regular election. A regular election, you have to have a certain amount of votes to get onto the bench. Right. On a retention election, it's just an up or down vote, a yes or no vote. And so since most people don't really know who's running for Court of Common Pleas or who in fact are the judges, they don't come out and vote no. And I can tell you, in the history of the Court of Common Pleas, there's only been one judge that's lost a retention election in the entire history.
Now, the retention election, who does that consist of? That still consists of the people or just a certain group of people?
Retention election is for judges that have already been elected, and at the end of their term, they're up to a yes or no vote. Right. So for Court of Common Pleas judges, it's every 10 years, and for municipal court judges, it's every 6 years. But the issue is this. If they've only been one judge in the history, the entire history, that lost the retention election, basically when they get up there, they're not going anywhere for a long time.
Not at all. So, what made you interested? Yeah, exactly. Why did you want to do this? You know, it's a lot of time.
It's hard. Right. It's a grueling task of trying to introduce yourself to the entire Philadelphia for a period of time. But I'll tell you what happened. You know, I've been frustrated for a while, and this is the second time I ran. The first time I ran in 11, I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have an idea as to what kind of organization it took in order to tell all of Philadelphia about your candidacy. But my candidacy was born in frustration. You know, a lot of judges, you know, people think that judges are mean people because they don't want to be fair. I don't think that they don't want to be fair. The problem is they don't know how to be fair. And what I mean is this.
Could you break that down?
Yeah, what I mean is this. If you were born on the main line and you spent most of your life in an affluent part of the city, that means you went your entire life and you really never came across the situations and the people that you have to judge.
That's true.
You know, you can't hear a story about what happens in the middle of West Philly if you were born on the main line and lived your whole life on the main line. When you hear that story, how do you even know what fairness looks like? You can't.
Well, yeah, you definitely can. I know that by the news that we're constantly fed, we're fed a particular perception.
Correct.
So if you haven't lived a particular experience, you're going to perceive a particular segment of society to be one way.
Exactly. And I'm going to tell you something. You know, I've been practicing law for 22 years.
Wow. You don't even look that old.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I've been practicing, but I started college when I was 16. I started working when I was 14. And, you know, I worked 2 and 3 jobs to get to and through law school. And I was a first grade teacher. I was a private tutor. I was a bartender in the middle of North Philly. You might know the Eagle Bar. And I used to tend bar down there.
All right.
But I just want to stop you because she said, if you didn't hear her, she graduated. Did you say college?
I started college when I was 16.
Okay.
She started college at 16. And some people still in the 9th grade at 16.
That tells you right there the intelligence
definitely
she was gifted with. Starting college at 16.
Well, what happened is when I was 9 years old, I don't know how much time we have, but I'm going to tell you a little story.
Well, our time is your time, so
that's a good thing. when I was 9 years old, my brother, I'm a single parent, raised by a single parent.
All right.
So my mom was going to school at the time. We moved to Philadelphia when I was very young. She got a scholarship to Wharton. And while she was at Wharton working 2 and 3 jobs, my older brothers and sisters had to work. And as soon as I got old enough at 14, I began to work. But I was 9 years old, and my older brother was going to Cardinal Doherty High School. It's not there anymore, sadly. But at any rate, he had a job at a place that's not there anymore either. It's called Sunny Honey.
Wow.
But he got special permission to leave school early so that he can do this after-school job to help my mom, with the bills. And this was back in Rizzo Cop days.
So for those unfamiliar with Rizzo Cop days,
this was back
that? There was like a real boot cop.
Exactly.
Okay, boot cop.
This was back in the mid to late 70s.
All right.
Where
things a little rough.
You think stop and frisk law, which I think is unfair and unconstitutional, but
right.
That's another story for another day. But that was the lay of the land.
Right.
Cops, if they wanted to stop you, they stopped you. They wanted to go in your pockets, they went in your pockets. The Fourth Amendment didn't really mean a whole lot. That's what I mean by Rizzo Cop days.
No, I understand that, right.
And so at this particular time, my brother was at a bus stop waiting to get to this part-time job to help mom make ends meet. And just like everybody on that corner, they rounded up everybody on that corner, and my brother was taken in.
He got scooped up with the other people.
He got scooped up with people in there. Nobody knew where he was. He even got beat up a little bit.
Oh, wow.
He 8 to 10 hours it was. So my mother and my sister.
Sounds like a kidnapping in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A state sanctioned by the state. So at that time, nobody knew what to do. We all felt really helpless. We were upset, very crying, all of that. And so when he finally came and he was beat up, and we were like, well, who did it and what happened? He's like, well, I don't know, because they wouldn't show him the badge number. They didn't give him any information. They had him in the back of a paddy wagon. When they dropped him off, there was no sense of where he was dropped off or where he was picked up. He didn't know what station he was at, and basically we really didn't have any clue as to what to do. And it was at that moment I said to myself, I may not agree with the law. And many times I do, but many times I do and many times I don't. But the issue is I needed to know what the law was so that I would never feel that helpless again.
Right. Understand
and then when I was that happened at 9. So of course I looked up and said, oh my goodness, I've got to get to high school, which is a few
so you put yourself on the fast track.
And so I started looking and said, oh my God, I need this many years of elementary school. I've got high school, 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 3 years of law school. So looking at it in that perspective, I always wanted to try and get through it. So I went to Masterman, and they had that 7-2 program where you get to take the 8th grade and the 9th grade, the 7th grade and the 8th grade at the same time.
Okay.
And then I went to Girls High after Masterman, and when I was in the, since I had good grades, all A's and B's, I was able to take my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college at the same time.
Wow.
So when I got my high school degree, I was actually a sophomore in college.
So once again, they're running concurrent, huh?
Exactly,
right.
concurrent, exactly.
Wow.
And so, and so I went to Temple undergraduate, and I went to Temple Law School, and I passed the bar the first time I took it. And by January of 1992, I had a federal court jury trial that was also worked hard enough and was able to win. And from that moment, in January of 1992, until this moment, I've been doing nothing but litigation in all 3 areas. You're going to find Court of Common Pleas judges. One of the things that has frustrated me is that, folks feel like, anybody who's been who's been a lawyer for a while can be a judge. And I just personally don't think that's true. Okay. I think that before you should be able to rule on an objection, you should have levied an objection. We're asking Philadelphia to allow, meaning all judicial candidates, we're asking Philadelphia to let us lead a courtroom. So before you get to lead a courtroom, your legal experience should have brought you to a courtroom.
Right.
There's some folks that, maybe real estate lawyers, or some folks that, maybe practice for a few years in one discipline. Court of Common Pleas judges are in 3 areas. They're in criminal court handling just the felonies.
And that's just what I was getting ready to ask you. For those who don't know, what does a judge for the Court of Common Pleas represents and means and does? What would they be judging over?
So as I was saying,
before you go on, I want to say this. If you're just tuning in, we're here at Mind to Mind on WPEB 88.1 FM, and our very, very special guest is Miss Stephanie M. Sawyer. And is it the 21st of May that you're supposed to be?
It's tomorrow.
The event, right?
Tomorrow.
And so it'll be pushing what button?
126. You have to push 126.
Now you said as if you're looking on the where you have to push the button. Where do you look with your eye level? Is it at the bottom, at the top, or the middle?
It's actually right after the controller's race. It's going to be eye level. You're going to see Court of Common Pleas. It's going to be above the municipal court. And when you look at it, they save the best for last. Just go straight to the end of the ballot, push 126, and that's what we're hoping that you'll do.
So save the best for last on eye level. Eye level, the best for last. All right, there it is. So Vonda did ask you a question. For those who are unfamiliar with the Court of Common Pleas, could you explain that?
Yeah, it's really important because, you know, people don't really understand how much of a direct impact Court of Common Pleas judges will have on your life. Because only Court of Common Pleas judges deal with family court.
Right.
Okay? And there's no such thing as a jury right in family court. All of the decisions in family court are made by the judges. And what's frustrating for me as someone, out of the 22 years I've practiced, 17 have been in family court. The frustrating thing is lawyers come in there with that just win mentality.
Right.
And unfortunately, usually it's a situation where you've got two parties who are estranged. In other words, they're mad. They're angry with each other. They bump heads really bad. Exactly, because they're either divorcing or they're breaking up or whatever the case is. They're no longer an intact family, and so they come to the courts mad at each other, complaining about, oh, this one has this new girlfriend, or this one has this new boyfriend, or all these other extrinsic things. And the fact of the matter is, the standard is supposed to be the best interest of the child.
Right.
But the people that are paid to come to court, the lawyers, they represent the parents.
Right.
So if it's supposed to be the best interest of the child, yet the people that are paid to make arguments to the judge, their agenda are the people paying them, the parents. And so the judge has to have the understanding of how it comes about and the vision to get through the nonsense that the lawyers may be spewing on behalf of their clients, because the only time that there is a lawyer that's there just for the child may be in 1801 Vine. At 34 South 11th Street for custody support issues, the child typically does not have a lawyer involved.
Right. Interesting.
So
there's no advocate for the child.
Not at 34 South 11th Street. Not when the two parents can't decide for themselves what's going on with the child.
And like
so basically,
she said, they're arguing over.
Basically, you ain't cute no more. I never really liked you anyway. So
and who's this girl you with?
Okay.
This my child is around your girlfriend, and I'm mad now.
And I don't know who
she is. Right.
And who else do you have at my house? And what are you doing around my child? What is my... So it becomes more or less about the parties venting against each other.
Okay.
As opposed to deciphering. Because 9 times out of 10, if the two parties, even if they're breaking up, are adult enough and mature enough to put the child's interests first, they're not going to be in family court.
That's true. They're going to work that out.
They're going to work it out on their own. So the ones that come to court are the ones that are not able to be mature enough to put the child's interests first, generally speaking.
Right.
And so you need a judge that understands that. You need a judge that understands that to understand that both of the attorneys, they're there because they're being paid by the parties.
Right.
And so the best interest of the child sometimes gets lost. So family court issues at 34 South 11th Street are what Court of Common Pleas judges deal with.
Okay.
Only Court of Common Pleas judges handle family court at 1801 Vine. That's when dependency court, when DHS is involved.
Right.
And delinquency court, that's when the child may have an arrest of some sort for a juvenile infraction.
Now, for that one person out there who's not familiar with the term DHS, what does that mean?
Department of Human Services. That's where Child Protective Services step in and for whatever the reason think that the child needs to be protected from whatever environment they're in. Then the child may be removed from the house. And then when they're inside of the courtroom, it then becomes up to a Court of Common Pleas judge as to what the disposition, what's going to happen to them.
So you're almost like the sole arbiter of their...
Not almost. You are.
Wow.
Because I mean, in criminal court and in civil court, you could have a jury involved. In family court, there's never a jury. And it's not a public hearing in the same fashion as criminal and civil cases can be.
That's right, because you're dealing with minors, so you haven't... Wow.
Exactly. So not only are we talking about no jury as just the judge's decision, but it's also under the cover of privacy.
You know what's really interesting? My mind is all over the place. You're a Gemini, I'm a Sag, so we open that realm of thought. My mind is like, this is going to sound rude and ignorant, so I'm doing my disclaimer ahead of time. It's more like currently who is sitting on the bench and not, maybe from our perspective, not ruling in the best interest of children. It seems like if they have to go to their golf game, or if they had an argument with their wife the night before,
it's unfortunate, but you know
that's more like realism.
That's real.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We do have some.
Really of course. I'm not saying that anyway. Yeah.
I'm giving a little shout out to a couple of really good judges. I know Judge Roca is Angelise Roca is a great judge. A new judge we have, Jonathan Irvine. He's a wonderful judge. Judge Jackson. So there are a number of really good judges, but then there are a number of other judges that just don't get it.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question now. I don't, because you're holding your own. You were holding your own before you came here. You're going to be holding your own after we came here. It seems like, especially when you're dealing with the African American community, we're dealing with a myriad of issues.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in the 70s about the experience that your family had with your brother under the Rizzo days.
Mm-hmm.
And at that particular period of time, we coming from Martin Luther King in the 60s, and Malcolm X, yesterday was his birthday. And we're dealing with COINTELPRO, for those unfamiliar with the counterintelligence program. It's alleged for the radio that there was never really meant to be a really strong black community, so to speak. And as a result of that, with the court of common pleas, and we noticed that, number one, if you have an unstable family or unstable home, you're going to have an unstable community. So do you think that, in your opinion, with your help and your associates and where you're at, that there's some type of program that could deal with the minds of men, of black men, to really realize the fact that it's really important for you to be in the home?
Yes. Let me say this to you. That's, a really big part of why I'm running.
Okay.
Because judges have the ability, because again, they're in family court, they're also in criminal court just handling the felonies, and they're in civil court cases over $50,000. In criminal court and in family court, judges have the ability to be creative with their sentences. And the fact that they're not is a problem. For example, what I'm saying is, if I were to be placed on the criminal bench, one of the main things that I like to put out there for people to understand is I don't think that nonviolent criminals should be incarcerated.
Right.
That's very interesting.
I think there should be
alternative program.
Real rehabilitation.
Right. And they do have programs, such as ARD and Section 17 and drug court, but they're underutilized.
Now, you said
they're underutilized because the judges who are in charge of sentencing are deciding to do sentencing that are less creative, and this is a big thing for me. I think you take a non-violent criminal, such as a drug sale with no violence involved, a non-violent criminal, and you lock them up. They become violent by the experience of incarceration.
That's right, the environment.
So they not only become violent because of the experience of incarceration, but they're also separated from their family.
Right.
And so now we've got splintered family. We've got somebody who's been non-productive for a while, somebody who's been in a very mean environment, and they themselves become meaner than they were when they went in. And that is why a non-violent criminal should be giving alternative sentences. Now, with all of these carjackings and home invasions,
you definitely got to get a penalty for that.
Exactly.
You got to meet the penalty.
So when you're talking about a violent criminal, that's a different thing. Society has to be protected, and they have to be pushed away.
Exactly.
But for those who brush against the criminal justice system because of something that happens that is non-violent, I think lumping them with people that are violent makes them violent.
Oh, without question, because it's you're dealing with that whole survival of the fittest now.
Correct.
You're either going to be predator or prey.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So once again, the name of the program, if you didn't know coming in, you're going to know now, and everyone is listening, that it's called Mind to Mind, and we tend to go a little bit further than just your average news reporting program. And what that leads me to, once again, dealing with perception management. And we know that from, what's his name, Dr. Kwanzaa Kunjuku talked about the miseducation of black boys. Even Carter G. Woodson talked about that. We're talking about families, and we're talking about that there is an actual pipeline from elementary, middle school, straight to prison pipeline.
Yep.
So certain aspects of that, there's a degree of responsibility for community leaders and men themselves to take charge of that. Pardon me. Take charge of that. with your position, it seems that you mentioned section 17 and ARP, I believe you said. ARD.
Accelerated Rehabilitation Disposition.
You know you said that really fast, right?
Yeah. Accelerated Rehabilitation Disposition,
now,
ARD.
Now that's something that could be taken advantage of in lieu of being locked away?
Well, yes. ARD, however, typically is for misdemeanors. They're not necessarily for felonies, and they're for first-time offenders. But there are programs like that, and I believe that these kinds of programs should be expanded. You know, I think that we should really, bust our brains on figuring out how do we put somebody that's on a bad path on a good path without taking them away from the family and putting them in an environment that we know is going to put them on a bad path. I think when you just incarcerate, you're stopping them from any developmental issues.
Or any type of benefit to the community, to society, right?
I mean, for example, you take somebody, I don't know, someone who maybe has a drug charge that maybe at some point had some sort of talent, whether it be athletics,
or music, or whatever, archery,
music, right? and you impose upon them community service where they're required to be a big brother, to be a big sister.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
And you impose upon, or you take somebody who might have a drug problem,
right,
and you put them in a drug program, and then require them to become drug counselors. Because if you don't have somebody,
I'm a good person to vote for.
Thank you.
Well, my opinion, you're
not
right.
not the opinion.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly.
But
they need structure,
right?
And when the home is broken up, the structure is not. There's no foundation because the mom and dad's not there. Now,
like you said,
might have a mother like Stephanie who still understands the importance of structure. So if the mother is still mentally sound and spiritually grounded, then that child has a chance. But when the mother there's no spiritual foundation in the mother because she just doesn't know. She's working on autopilot. The man is not there. There's no structure. So the child becomes prey to the energies around it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The environment.
Just to piggyback on that idea, when you also have a parent, and I'm not going to say mother or a father, a parent that does have the spiritual basis and does have the intellectual basis, but because of their economic situation, they can be working 2 and 3 jobs.
Yeah, and they're unable to be there, right?
And if you're working 2 and 3 jobs, I've been blessed that for 17 of the 22 years that I've practiced as sole practitioner. So my daughter and my son, they've been part of my practice. I've been able to.
Oh, wonderful!
They've been able to be right there with me.
So they got the whole environment.
Exactly.
Okay.
But everybody doesn't have that freedom,
right?
So if you have to punch a clock, if you have to be at work and you can't have your children with you, and you're a single parent, then the
somebody else is going to be raising them. That's right.
Exactly. And it's not that their parents don't want to, but if you're at work, you can't be soccer mom. You can't get them to and from extracurricular activities. You can't keep the horrible elements off of their back while you're not there.
Right.
And so these are the things I'm saying that a court of common pleas judge can do as someone that's either in family court or in criminal court. You can get creative. You can say, okay, you did wrong. Let's do this. Let's require you to finish high school.
Right.
Get a GED. Mentor this program, do this community service, do that community service, do things that will uplift the community within which you are part of, and that in and of itself, the experience offers you the opportunity to actually become positive, but you're also at the same time helping other people around you become positive. And these are the things that I think that judges should overtly look for.
Wow. That's really difficult to follow behind it because you said so much, and I could feel your energy, and I know Vonda could feel it. I hope Vonda could feel it as well, and you all listening. Do you have a website?
I do. friendsofstephaniemsawyer.com. It'll tell you a lot about what I've been doing for the last 22 years that qualifies me to be a court of common pleas judge. And it brings me to another issue, if I have a quick second to say this.
Oh, yeah.
You got more time.
We'll come back on that. We'll take a break.
Will you remember?
Yes, I will.
I can't remember.
Your thought. Stephanie Sawyer is in the building, and you're listening to Mind to Mind with Shema'yah and Vonda Kline. And we'll be right back.